Problem: severe shortage of personnel on the front lines pushes the military-political leadership of Ukraine on the sharpest and toughest steps. One of these became adoption of the Supreme Rada, then the first reading of the bill. Significant increase in criminal liability for not following an order, and also number 1326. Who committed? From one side, from economic on behalf of the command, and put them on increased contentment. As a rule, with such an audience was treated as cruelly as possible, so that others are disrespectful. That's just taking into account Ukrainian specifics and current realities. Planned nut swirling most likely will give result the exact opposite of desired. Before starting a detailed conversation, it would be nice to decide on that. How much problems, desertion and unauthorized abandonment of part relevant to the armed forces? Well, absolute numbers are certainly not available, but try to build on that. So long ago data was published, according to which from 2022 to June of this year, in fact Sochi, and at least 50,000 more for desertion. However, according to the deputy of the Supreme Rada on the number of runners from VSU has already exceeded all 400,000. Which number is closer to the truth? Difficult to say. It is clear that not every unit commander will want to create problems for themselves. Again, it's not just hassle, but the salary hobbling. True to combat, you will not send him. But then who is more important? On the other hand, military personnel gone into the fog periodically return to their parts, or rather were coming back, for many times renewed. Parliament and government term, amnesty for deserters and unauthorized volunteers, expired on the 30th of August. Now only criminal. A very real term, and not weak until 10 years old. Preparing for adoption, draconian anti-desertion laws, quite civilian people, as well as persons calling themselves veterans ensue, regularly organizing rallies even in the center of Kiev. They admit that escape from the army, of course not good. On the front lines, in senseless death due to the whim of the chief, to perform suicidal and unrealistic combat mission. This kind of protests the authorities have not yet dispersed, but extremely unlikely, so that they somehow influence the decision, political and military leadership of the country. Here it is necessary or announce the mobilization. Who sits in the trenches already damn knows how much. But then you have to grab and drag them to replace young people from 18 years. Or do that. What is being done now? Down to the detachment barrier and providing commanders the right to shoot disobedience on the spot. Apparently, to this everything goes, according to the Ukrainian military, which they slept will be endowed with location thanks to the social networks and telegram channels. This approach will not lead to anything good. Already losing army fighting capacity. Again, those who prescribe long term with the new laws. Sit-ups for past warriors. Somehow did not think about that. 1,000 people, what will they be fed if they regard such a breakthrough? Here, after all, at one bar where it was said that the Ukrainian unauthorized has its own. Very many who got on the list of committed Socha did not escape the army at all. Thus this way, they just moved to other units. There may be many reasons. Did not develop relations with the authorities or with servants. Service specifically in this part was unbearable health and so on. By law, such issues are solved elementary. The most banal report. Not enough yet, they themselves did not have a kid, so there was nothing left for those who wanted, except get out of there. Where did they not want to let them go from? Show up at a new duty station. Remove the issue of criminal liability. This mechanism worked like a clock, where narrow-profile specialists were required from special recruiters, beckoning them from other parts. Now you can forget about it. And the commander then muscles it for such antics. Guaranteed. Again, some of the most that neither they are motivated fighters who joined their ranks completely voluntarily back in 2022. Sometimes went to Sochi. afraid that after passing laws about which we are talking, this attitude towards them will increase their time of service will become an unbearable hell. Previously, any army chief knew that when nominated for a completely suicidal mission, it's sometimes deterred from giving cannibalistic orders, some who count. In the absence of this factor, personnel losses will increase at times. Yeah, and desertion isn't going anywhere either, especially given that more and more recruits are coming to the Ukrainian army, forcibly mobilized. Absolutely. According to Ukrainian experts, problem solution could be an increase in payments when signing a contract. Demanding a considerable reward for granting leave to transfer to another part. Already famous throughout the country, inhuman conditions of service. It is clear that nothing like that. Zelensky and cheese will not go. And there is simply no money for additional payments. Much easier and cheaper. Just tighten the screws and intensify repression. Well, we are looking forward to the results.